week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am Comic Hero. Coming to you from Uncharacteristic Studios. And folks, my favorite time of year is here. It's football season. And, wow, I'm so glad it's here. In this episode, I'm going to rep my favorite football teams. I'm going to rep my favorite high school team, which is my alma mater, the Homer High School Fighting Pelicans. My favorite college football team, a college that I attended for 3 years, ULM, the Warhawks. And also my favorite NFL team that I've been a lifelong fan of, the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to be repping them by wearing different t-shirts like the one that I'm wearing right now. This is a Homer Pelicans one that I previously wore in episode 220 when I paid tribute to my principal, the late great Darcy Stevens Jr. All right. Speaking of t-shirts, it's time to give away a free one. All right, last week's episode, I asked, which Fantastic Four villain was Mr. Fantastic's college roommate? Well, the correct answer is Dr. Doom. And 13 people have answered correctly, and because they've answered correctly, their names have been entered in a drawing for a free tee, and that drawing takes place right now. So, the winner of the free tee for this week's episode of the show is... Sharon Hart from Monroe, Louisiana. So congratulations, Sharon. You win yourself a free Comic Hero tee. All right, here's the question for next week's episode, and this is a Green Lantern question. Which Guardian of the Universe recruited Kyle Rayner as a Green Lantern? Everyone who answers correctly has been entered in a drawing for a free tee in next week's episode of the show. So, I gotta ask, any questions?
Questions I walk around in. Questions I didn't reply in. Questions I will survive in. Questions.
All right, I have 3 questions this week, and the first one is from Manuel Rock from Natchitoches, Louisiana. He asked, what planet did Venom come from? Well, Manuel, now keep in mind, Venom was only the symbiote's name when it bonded with Eddie Brock. Other than that, it was just an alien symbiote. But to answer your question, it's actually the planet is called Klyntar. That's spelled Klyntar. Before that, Marvel just called it the planet of the symbiotes, but then over time I think somebody came up with a somewhat intelligent name for it, and the planet is called Klyntar. Now, speaking of the symbiote, there have been several other Marvel characters that have been the host for this alien symbiote. I mean, there was Peter Parker / Spider-Man. For those of y'all that are a little older than I am, back in the mid '80s, he donned a black suit. Well, that was actually an alien symbiote. But then when it left him and then bonded itself with Eddie Brock after Peter Parker lost control, he started wearing a cloth suit. But then after Venom almost killed Mary Jane, he stopped wearing the suit for a very long time and wouldn't wear it again until I think about 11 years ago. Yeah, it was around the time of Civil War, so yeah. But the answer is Klyntar. All right, the next question comes from John Nix from Monroe, Louisiana. He asks, what, in your opinion, has been the greatest company-wide crossover in comic book history? Well, John, yikes. There have been so many. Now, for Marvel, I don't know, because there have been a lot of epic ones, but I'll get to Marvel in a minute. But for DC, hands down, it has to be Crisis of Infinite Earths. That miniseries lasted an entire year from 1985 to 1986, and it was it pretty much was the swan song for the Silver Age of DC Comics. Now, the Silver Age started, I think, back in the 1950s, and it ran all the way into the mid 80s. And there were some characters who died, like Supergirl. The first Supergirl died during Crisis of Infinite Earths, and then Barry Allen died at the hands of the Anti-Monitor, and then that's when Wally West became the Flash. But right after the end of it, everyone was mind wiped, and the only person that knew about it was the Psycho Pirate. But later on, everyone started remembering the events of Crisis of Infinite Earths. For Marvel, to me, I mean, there have been several of them. I mean, Original Sin was one because it was huge because that because Uatu the Watcher was murdered, and then at the very end of it, Nick Fury became the Unknown, and the Unknown was this this character who instead of like watching and then warning everyone on Earth what was to come, he had to sit there and wait. He was basically in ball and chain the entire time something happened. As a matter of fact, he was in ball and chain. Well, regardless, that was huge. And also, Thor lost control of Mjolnir. He found out that he was no longer worthy of wielding a hammer that he had for many years. But I don't know. I'd probably have to say Secret Wars, and I'm talking about the second one, the one that was out from 2015 to 2016, because that pretty much combined both the original Marvel Universe and the Ultimate Marvel Universe. And now you're seeing this Marvel Universe that's a lot more diverse. It's a lot more... I mean, you're seeing both the Miles Morales and Peter Parker Spider-Man fighting side by side without having to visit each other from their respective universes and all that. But I don't know. I'd have to say that Secret Wars. Now the first Secret Wars that came out in the 80s, I really don't know that one because at the time that it came out, I was only a toddler. And with me, I'm kind of a historian, with many subjects, not just comics. But I didn't really read Secret Wars. I just didn't. I mean, I've read bits and pieces about it, like news pieces, but I've never, read it like I did Crisis of Infinite Earths. But the second Secret Wars, definitely, because that changed everything. If you read, the first issue of Secret Wars, at the very end of it, when the original Marvel Universe collided with the Ultimate Marvel Universe and made one, at the end of it, it said, the original Marvel Universe, born 1961, died 2015. And then the Ultimate Marvel Universe, born 2000, died 2015. So that was earth-shattering. So I have to say for DC, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and for Marvel, the second Secret Wars. Alright, and the last question is from Mike Hart from Monroe, Louisiana. He asks, which comes first, Swamp Thing or Man-Thing? What inspired these characters? Well, Mike, technically Man-Thing came out first. It was kind of an unknown character. He was created by like 4 guys. It was I know 3 of them. It was Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, and Jerry Conway, and I cannot remember the 4th person. And they combined a lot of stuff. Although according to Roy Thomas, he did not approve of the name Man-Thing when they decided to make him a permanent character in the Marvel Universe. And when this happened, this was probably back in 1970 or 1971. And at that point, they already had the Thing and they already had the Hulk. And the word Man-Thing just didn't really make a lot of sense to Thomas. There really wasn't an inspiration behind that. Now, Swamp Thing, I can tell you that Lin Wein had wanted to create this swamp-like character, and he did so while he was on a subway in Queens. And then he pitched the idea to artist Bernie Wrightson, and he went with it, and that was it. I want to say, I don't know. I think they both, because Swamp Thing, to me, I think Man-Thing came first, and then Swamp Thing probably about a year later. So I had to say Man-Thing, then Swamp Thing. So there you go. All right, that's it for any questions. If you have any questions, please get them to me. This is a permanent segment, and I want to keep it that way. All right, now Jason Bash from Warren, Ohio has requested a Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown fight, and this one is cosmic and magical. Representing DC, we have the Guy Gardner Green Lantern. And representing Marvel, we have Doctor Strange. These two are going to duke it out in a segment I like to call
The Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown.
Welcome to the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown. Today it's the Guy Gardner Green Lantern versus Doctor Strange. Guy Gardner, like any other Green Lantern, possesses flight, force field manipulation, and the ability to create heart-like constructs with his power ring. Doctor Strange is a practicing magician who draws his powers from mystical entities such as Agamotto, Sidorak, Icon, Ashtor, Rogador, and Watum, who lend their energies from spells. Strange also wields mystical artifacts including the Cloak of Levitation, which enables him to fly, the Book of the Vishanti, a grimoire which contains knowledge of white magic, and the Orb of Agamotto, a crystal ball which is used for clairvoyance. Who will win? This fight would start off with Strange toying around with Gardner. He would create duplicates of himself and simultaneously send them at Gardner. One would say, "I'm over here, Space Cop." Another one would say, "No, over here." And another one would say, "No, over here." Then a gang of duplicates would beat up on him until Gardner creates a force field and knocks them all out. They all disintegrate and Gardner goes on offense. He creates a heart-like construct of life-size vice grips and captures Strange. The latter conjures up a spell that negates the construct, but is unable to because the Green Lantern's power ring isn't evil. He then conjures up a spell of blinding light that temporarily stuns Gardner. Strange then magically removes Gardner's power ring from him. This angers Gardner and he charges towards Strange. The latter ends the fight by delivering a vicious roundhouse kick to Gardner. Doctor Strange wins. And that concludes this fight on the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that fight, and if you have fight requests for future episodes, contact info is down there. Alright folks, it's time for Comically Speaking, so without further ado, let's talk comics! Alright, there's only one thing in this segment of Comically Speaking that I'm going to talk about, and that's the return of Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I, like everyone else, was led to believe that there was going to be no more Guardians of the Galaxy. That the team had disbanded, and after Infinity Wars, there are going to be some members that are going to die. However, Marvel has said, even though Infinity Wars is coming, that doesn't mean that folks are going to die. That doesn't mean that Guardians of the Galaxy is not coming back. Just found out about this. It's going to be, the new series is coming out in January. It's going to be written by Donny Cates, who's currently writing Venom, with art by Jeff Shaw. Now, it hasn't really been speculated as to who is going to be on the Guardians, but I saw this this huge spread that was drawn, and it features everyone that has ever been a member of the Guardians. Take a look. You know, looking at all those people, that's just, I mean, you just can't stand, I don't know, I just can't stand to wait. I can't find out who's going to be on there. And I can't wait to read the book just because it's going to be back. But Guardians of the Galaxy, coming back to Marvel, January of next year. Alright, that's it for Comically Speaking. Now then, let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
Alright, first up is Extermination number 2. Edge of Spider-Geddon number 2. The Life of Captain Marvel number 2. X-Men Blue number 34. Venom number 5. Detective Comics number 987. Black Panther number 3. Exiles number 7. Justice League Dark number 2. Marvel 2-in-1 number 9. And finally, Teen Titans Special. Alright, that's 11, which brings the total number of comics that I bought since December of 1997 to 8,873. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And here's a question again for a free tee for next week's episode of the show. Which Guardian of the Universe recruited Kyle Rayner to be a Green Lantern? Everyone who answers correctly be entered in a drawing for a free tee in next week's episode of the show. And congratulations to Sharon Hart from Monroe, Louisiana, who won a free tee in this week's episode. Alright, folks, here's the road ahead for the show. Now, next week's episode, episode 228, I'm going to raise awareness for PCOS, or Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. You know, there are some women that I personally know who have PCOS, and it may not seem like very much, folks, but it's very devastating, and it can lead to death. And not only that, the most heartbreaking thing about that is when women have PCOS, it's hard for them to conceive. And I mean, women deserve to be moms. Women deserve to be moms. They deserve to carry children inside of them. They deserve to bring them into the world. And I know women that have it, and it's not easy for them. So if you're watching this and you have PCOS, next week's episode is for you. And then episode 229, I'm going to raise awareness for prostate cancer. September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And I personally know some men that have had prostate cancer and lost their battle. I know some men that have prostate cancer and are fighting, and I know some men that had prostate cancer and beat it. This episode is for you. And then 2 weeks later, episode 231, the 5th anniversary episode of the show. Wow, half a decade of doing this. You know what? All I have to say is thank God that I just thank God for allowing me to do this. To do this show for as long as I've done it, and I thank God for the many more years that I'm going to do it, because as I said before, I'm not going to stop doing the show until I am physically unable to. And I stand by that. All right. And one more thing. One more thing. This Saturday is the grand opening of Villains Comics and Collectibles. It's on 4 Louisville Avenue in Monroe. If you don't know where it is, it's right next to Lucky 7 Tattoo Shop. I'm going to try to be out there. I'm going to try to get out there. Maybe a little late getting there because of other things that need to be done. But here's the thing. I want to do a comic hero show extra. I haven't done one in a few months, and I think this is the perfect time to want to do that. I mean, what perfect time to do an episode of the show, or even an abbreviated episode of the show, but at the grand opening of a comic book store. It's pretty awesome. So if you're watching this and it's not Saturday yet, I'll see you over at Villains Comics and Collectibles. All right. I hope y'all. I hope y'all. Enjoy this football season, whether it be high school, college, or NFL. I know I'm going to be. And well, yeah. All right. I'm Victor Nolly. I'm the Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for episode 228. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero, and go Pels go! Defend the nest! Who dat?